Hi, this is Queer City Catchup's video essay series, and today I'll be telling you how we can use what writers like to call the reversal when considered alongside tone and character development to predict how a TV show might end. We'll specifically be applying this lens to the acclaimed comedy drama Hacks. Returning for its 4th season on April 10th. Warning, this video will include spoilers for Hacks, Succession, The Good Place, Mad Men, Lost, and Barry. Crucially, Hacks is a comedy drama. Most comedies, especially the sitcoms, strive to bring its characters and their external circumstances back to the status quo of the series at the end of each and every episode. For example, even if Jim Halpert organizes an Olympics while his boss Michael and arch nemesis Dwight Schrute are out buying a condo, the audience knows Jim's not going to lose his job. The employees of the office will all be back next episode for more awkward and mundane hilarity at Dunder Mifflin. But that's not Hacks. A comedy drama, even though it has won numerous comedy awards at the Emmys and Golden Globes over the course of its run. Hacks is funny, but it also regularly steals from the playbook of great TV drama by relying on the reversal, or the unexpected turn of events that flip a narrative situation on its head, often leading to a major shift in a protagonist's fortunes or an audience's expectations. It would be like if Michael did come back from his condo tour, and instead of him getting emotional as he's awarded a gold medal for purchasing some property, he fires everyone, leaving us to find out what each respective employee gets up to in the face of unemployment during the rest of the season. That's not to say that comedies don't use reversals. They do. Think of Dwight on the few occasions where he does best Jim, but it never fundamentally alters the world in the same way as it can in the best dramas or comedy dramas. Because comedy dramas do a little bit of both. They shake up and affirm the status quo. For Hacks, it might be best to turn to the wise words of @WombPatrol, who once tweeted, "Hacks is Succession for gay people who also watch Succession." This tweet is hilarious because it's exceptionally accurate. To understand Hacks, we should look at Succession, and specifically the relationship between the aging but powerful, nasty yet magnetic media mogul Logan Roy and his ambitious yet feckless, outwardly confident, but inwardly insecure, and if we're honest, a little cringe addict son, Kendall, who hopes to succeed Logan as the head of their conglomerate, Waystar Royco. In the first season finale, Kendall attempts a hostile takeover of Waystar, but then consumes drugs at his sister's wedding and accidentally kills a man in a car accident. His father helps cover it up, and Kendall must abandon his takeover and accept the embrace of a man / his father, who knows his, quote, best boy doesn't have what it takes. The takeaway, in spite of his children's search for validation and approval and success in their dad's own image, Logan's always going to come out on top. That's the status quo of Succession. Unlike a comedy, however, Succession, a drama, is willing to seriously explore the possibility that the status quo might not last forever. When a scandal with Waystar's cruise line threatens to destroy the company at the end of season 2, Logan tells Kendall he must serve as a blood sacrifice and take the fall for the company's gross negligence. Instead, Kendall steps into the role of whistleblower, claiming his father knew about the abuse on the cruise line and the company's subsequent cover-up during a live TV interview. Is that not strikingly similar to the season 3 finale of Hacks, where Deborah Vance, a powerful bully like Logan Roy, decides not to offer the top writer job of the late-night show she and Ava have worked so tirelessly to secure for Deborah to Ava, an ambitious, ineffective, albeit more talented striver, just like Kendall Roy? Deborah assumes Ava will just take the insult of the lesser job, as she's taken much of her employer / creative soulmate / abuser shit over the course of a few seasons. In the past, we've seen Ava lash out in covert ways that she's immediately attempted to undo. Voicemails rife with personal attacks, emails to other creatives seeking to make TV shows about mean boss ladies. But this time she takes a more calculated, Deborah-like approach, showing up on Deborah's first day on the job at the late night show, making Deborah think she's accepted her place as a meager staff writer, that their dynamic will remain the same forever. Instead, Ava threatens Deborah, tells her she will reveal Deborah has recently slept with the owner of the network before getting the show, unless Deborah gives Ava the top writer job after all. "You wouldn't," Deborah says. "I would, wouldn't you?" Ava replies. In other words, she's learned from the machinations of her boss, much as Kendall had learned from the father who didn't think his son had that killer instinct. In both instances, you can see the betrayal and anger on Logan and Deborah's respective faces. But you can also see something else. A hint of pride, perhaps? But that's kind of beside the point. Reversals shift the dynamics at play, and that's surprising, interesting, and, well, dramatic. This move always makes shows a hot water cooler topic of discussion, but it shouldn't really shock us as much as it does. The people stranded on a desert island will eventually get off and scream, "We have to go back," upending the flashback format of the show Lost by introducing flash forwards and telling us that our gang will get off that island, but shockingly will want to return. Don Draper will convince other characters to embrace his starting over playbook, to form their own agency, to avoid being sold to the big bad ad agency McCann Erickson, even though they'll all end up eventually working there anyway. When it comes to the great TV drama, you should assume that what's up will eventually become what's down over and over again, until the series finale airs, where the show's allegiance to one or the other eventually becomes clear. Kendall may have temporarily bested his father in season 2, but that is never going to be his ultimate fate. Even if his father dies before the series is over, Kendall's still not going to get the top job. He's ambitious but feckless through and through. Don Draper is going to hate and try to run away from himself again and again, even as he begins to flirt with self-forgiveness and self-actualization, until he finds out how to reconcile the two by recognizing that everyone seeks a balm for their emptiness and self-hatred, and a great ad man can use that universal truth to his own advantage, something he realizes in the very final episode of Mad Men. Our stranded Losties will see that growth and connection can help them all move on in a literal and metaphysical sense, though we can debate in the comments on if that means they were dead all along. In short, the reversal upends expectations, but eventually we find a resolution that makes sense given the world, tone, characters, and themes of any given TV drama. How then do we read reversals and make predictions when we're looking at a comedy drama like Hacks? I think the answer is it depends on where the show falls on the comedy drama spectrum. Those that are lighter, more comedic, are more likely to give us a basic happily ever after. Look at The Good Place, featuring perhaps the most genius reversal of all time in its first season finale, where our characters realize they're not in the heaven-like good place, but in the hell-like bad place. The show is philosophical and does ponder the meaning of life, but it also has about a zillion jokes a minute. It utilizes a zany, cheerful tone. There's no cynical Dawn ending or tragic Kendall ending, because the show wants the best for Eleanor, Chidi, Tahini, and Jason. A little like Lost, our characters who have gotten out of the bad place and into the good place over the course of the series now find peace and can move when their respective characters are ready through the final door. What might help is placing Hacks on the spectrum of comedy dramas about the entertainment industry. There can't be that many of those, you say. Actually, that's not quite true. On one end of the spectrum, we have Glow, the short-lived Netflix series about two hard-on-their-luck actresses and a myriad of other misfit women finding creative and personal fulfillment in the world of women's wrestling. On the other hand, we have Barry, the HBO series about a hitman who wants to become an actor. Though Glow was sadly cut short, the show humanized every character over the course of its run and returned to the concept of chosen family over ambition and Hollywood dreams most, if not all, the time. Even though the final scene of the very last episode featured an argument between the more successful, confident Debbie and her more hapless, insecure best friend Ruth over whether they should be seizing the day and going into the Hollywood business for themselves, it's pretty clear from the character moments and episode endings we got over the course of the series that those two probably would have reconciled. It's just that kind of show. In contrast, Barry was darker from the start, highlighting Barry's isolation, denial, and delusion, and thinking he could use acting to find connection and catharsis without atoning for or even admitting to the sins of his past. It makes sense that he'd ultimately end up paying for at least one of those sins by dying at the hands of his acting teacher, whose girlfriend he murdered in the season 1 finale. Hacks isn't as sunny as Glow or as dark as Barry. It lies somewhere in the middle. It seems unlikely that either Deborah or Ava will put their ambition to bed, no matter how many reversals in fortune they might experience from now until the series finale. The question might very well come down to whether or not Deborah is willing to sacrifice her own career for Ava's, letting the new guard step into place. But can she really do that? I think that is what our eventual series finale will ask of her, and I kind of want to believe she would do this out of love for Ava, but this is a woman who has done everything she can be to be on top, while the world continuously has told her all along the top wasn't a place for women. We have seen moments where Deborah has thought of Ava over herself, or at least has thought of Ava in a deeper way, firing Ava so Ava could pursue her own opportunities, standing up to the old guard of men in comedy when she had finally gotten back into their good graces, when they joked about bisexuality not being a real thing, which is something Deborah has learned is false because she knows Ava, who is bisexual. But now Ava's gone and pulled a Deborah on Deborah. Can her affection for Ava and her very rare flashes of selflessness survive that? Ava, however, might very well realize that success is too lonely. Maybe she'll sacrifice her career for Deborah's at the same time Deborah is considering sacrificing hers for Ava, temporarily torpedoing both of their chances to stay on top. Until maybe they sell the story of their relation to HBO Max? I don't know, but no matter what, ambition isn't going to leave these ladies. Who's up and who's down might change, but in the end, there's no business like show business, and that's what Ava and Deborah, together or apart, are all about. But they'll probably, to some extent, even if it's a bit begrudgingly, do it together. Do you agree? Let me know your thoughts about where the show Hacks might be going and what your favorite reversal in television might be in the comments. Thanks so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, and check out Queer Cinema Catchup's other videos. We have TV recaps, hour-long movie discussions, and more. And thanks for listening. Bye.